And today I'm really happy. I get to have a really special guest. He's a good friend of mine. He's been my colleague for a long time. His name is Mark Brooks. His company is Cortland Brooks. He knows as much about the dating industry as any living being on the planet. Welcome to the show, Mark Brooks.
Thank you, Julie. Great to be here. In fact, it's great to be anywhere.
Yeah, I don't know many people who've been through more than you have, and we're going to be talking about all that. Ladies and gentlemen, one of the reasons I wanted to have Mark on the show is because I have been watching as he's been going through an enormous, huge, difficult process health-wise. And I thought maybe it would be a great idea for you to tell us a little bit about resiliency and how the heck you keep your spirits up over a long journey like this. So give us the bottom line. What the heck happened to you? What's been going on? And what's the future looking like for you?
December 5th, sore throat. December 10th, sore arm. The throat didn't go away. I got a sore arm. December 12th, I got a fever and I hit it with NyQuil and went to sleep at London Heathrow Airport. 13 hours I slept and I woke up, no fever. But my arm, my left arm that was a bit sore, had gone entirely, like I couldn't use it. It was completely out of action. And I thought, no worries, not sure what it is, but I'm going to fly to Dubai anyway. So I grabbed the bag, jumped on the plane, couldn't use the arm, managed to maneuver around. Thankfully, I just had the carry-on. December 13th, I was excited. I landed in Dubai and I stayed up rather late. I landed at midnight and stayed up late to have my favorite shrimp burrito. Like 1 o'clock in the morning, shrimp burrito. I stayed up until 3 or 4 o'clock and this damn arm would not subside. It was starting to hurt. So I took some painkillers and went to sleep for 3, 4 hours and woke up. I thought, no, I do need to see a doctor. So I called a doctor. He came in and said, nope, it's not a fractured arm, but if it acts up, go to Al Zahra Hospital. So I thought, you know what, I'm going to make one good decision. That decision is I'm going to go and try out the hospital because I want to see what it's like for my daughters. If ever there's any problem, this is the perfect excuse to go and insist on spending a night in hospital. I have never spent a night in hospital. That's literally what got me over the fence, thankfully, because if I'd gone to bed, I probably wouldn't have got out of bed. This is like 2 or 3 hours away from the window closing on this. And then I knew I was in trouble when they gave me fentanyl. You do not get fentanyl in Dubai unless you're in trouble. This is the top tier opioid. And they gave me fentanyl. And I remember thinking, it's not working, it's not working. And then my memory lapsed from 20 minutes onwards. Couldn't remember a thing. And I'd given them permission to operate on me, basically. They thought it was compartment syndrome. But it was, in fact, necrotizing fasciitis, which is otherwise known as flesh-eating disease, which led to muscle necrosis. The flesh-eating disease I could have handled, but the muscle necrosis and the multi-organ failure, that was a bitch. I must say, 50% mortality. Normally it's 20% mortality with necrotizing fasciitis. But for some reason, I've generally got a very good immune system, but I got somehow beaten up with this muscle necrosis. So I lost my brachialis, my pronator, my flexor, a good portion of my triceps. So yeah, and that's over the course of, I was going to insist on one night in hospital. I got out 25 nights later. So it's been 9 weeks in hospital in the last 8 months, and I've just had operation 24. I give myself my own back massage because that, from there to there, was my back. And the latimus dorsi underneath it was moved over from my back. I got a scar from here all the way across to the center of the back. So my very creative, because I was like Popeye, I was like very little muscle. I was down to 2/3 here because I had to take out the brachialis and all the skin was gone. So they moved the latimus dorsi from my back along with a tendon to rebuild the tendon and rebuild the muscle. But the end result of that is two things. Number one, if I press right here, I feel it on my back. I do not feel my arm. I feel the back all the way across
Your
the back.
back looks
It
like
feels like a
bloody hell right now, doesn't it?
No, it's fine. It's just one scar going across it. It's fine. But they took out as much as they could to close it up. The other thing is, which is rather useful, I was told that I had to be very careful with skin cancer and I had to keep an eye on a mole on my back. It's a lot easier now because it's right there. I can see it.
What do you have to share with us about resiliency and about overcoming obstacles given what you've been through?
So what I found in ICU was that nature of time changed. You get driven into the seconds. You have to survive in the seconds and the minutes. What I found was you have to take the fight into the seconds. You have to take the fight into the minutes. You live minute to minute. And that's where the battle is won. So the nature of time has interminably changed for me. The other thing is stoicism is your friend. It's very easy to start feeling sorry for yourself, but you cannot, because at the end of the day, it just is. This is the mantra I had in my mind. And stoicism has been my friend in the past, but now it's bedfellows. It's just is the mantra that I had in my mind constantly. And I just lived second to second, minute to minute. And I knew I had a vision of where I get to with the support of my family and friends. And there was no other concept. It was 50-50 mortality. But I had absolutely precisely zero concept of that. There was absolutely no doubt in my mind that I was going to coast through it. The weird thing from all of this, I've had some very good clients that have stuck with me, and I've been operational because sitting in hospital, there's not an awful lot to do. So I kept up with it. And recently the business has boomed. It's really picked up. Now I'm fully capable, fully functional and beyond.
Beautiful. All
yeah.
right. Thank you for sharing that. I'm sure you've told the story a million times, but to my audience, it's
This is the first public time.
All right. Somebody had to do it, and it's Julie Furman. You have had the bird's eye perspective of the dating industry, especially the internet dating industry, as much as anybody for these last 20 years. You watched it grow from its infancy to the way it is today. Man, how do you even compare the way it was 20 years ago to the way it is today? Are we in better shape or worse shape? The single people who are using online dating apps today, are they in any better shape than they were 20 years ago?
From a selection standpoint, you would think so. Here's the way to think about it. The person living in the tertiary city in America, out in the country, they're in far better shape because the big players have critical mass into the tertiary cities. So they're in far better shape. The other thing that's really an interesting effect is the effect on matchmakers, because there's never been a time in the world where more people have opened up their wallets to receive some level of assistance with their dating lives. So I always think of online dating as the great wallet opener, the great value opener for matchmakers. So despite one would think that online dating companies would have snuffed the lights out of the world of matchmaking, but the opposite is true. The opposite has happened because people can see they're getting something for a few bucks, and they can see that if the missing element is the service element, and also what I really think is the absolute core of what matchmakers do incredibly well is pre-date prep and post-date feedback. And from that post-date feedback, you get something very unique. You get to see into the minds and get to hear what they really want and how critical they are of the other person, perhaps. So they give you tremendous insights. We have none of that. So I'm very sensitive to seeing what matchmakers have, the layering in of online dating versus matchmaking. One has to consider what's the nature of the people behind online dating versus matchmaking. And what I see is at the matchmakers conference, it's very charismatic. It's really a discussion about the individuals, about character, and about service. But when you look at the online dating industry, it's very much about marketing, mechanization. There is the heart there, but it's buried fairly deep from the perspective of a conference. There's a lot more tactical that we discuss, and it's very male dominant, which is intriguing. Matchmaking is very female dominant, and and the online dating industry is been quite male dominant for many years. And so I think I'd love for these industries to talk more. There is a meld that needs to happen. I'm determined to bring more of that's what LTR is about, the online conference. We have a smattering of matchmakers seasoning things up, giving some insight to the rest of the industry. And that's one of the few places where the industries mix effectively.
It's interesting. I have developed what I call a love-hate with the dating industry. I am bothered by the fact that word is even in the sentence, the dating industry. And the reason is I have a unique perspective because you probably remember how I met my husband, Gil. I was the consumer. I was the client. I was the one who was crying in my beer in an Ethiopian restaurant on a Friday night in St. Louis, 29.9 years old, with half of one ovary left after surgery. And I wanted kids. So I will never forget what that feels like. And back then we only had personal ads, and I used to do them. I'd done them 3 times in Kansas City, and I had fun with it. I hired a dating coach. He helped set me straight, helped me understand my blind spots. And so I had a really good foundation. And then I started the DIY in events before we had meetup groups, before we had any of that. My girlfriends and I were planning really fun events in Kansas City. And I had built this incredibly large social community for people who were frustrated with dating and wanted to meet other people. So I had it all going. And then I was with Ritz-Carlton. They moved me to St. Louis, where I was from. And I was sitting in that Ethiopian restaurant and I realized, oh my God, I can't place a personal ad in the newspaper in St. Louis. I grew up here.